Hey, I'm Hannah Weiss, the Director of Education at the Science Museum of Western Virginia, and this is your Moment of STEM. And this week, in honor of October continuing, and that being the month of all things spooky, we're going to continue talking about the spookier side of science and STEM and discuss the Salem Witch Trials. Now, here's the thing. The Salem Witch Trials were a not so bright part of American history, but there's something that's pretty widely studied. And I think some of the reason that it's been so studied is that, well, there were over 200 people accused. And of the accused, around 19 of them were actually hanged as a result of the trials, which were really started by a group of preteen and teenaged girls. 9 of them started exhibiting fits and downright scary symptoms, and when they were examined by a doctor, they couldn't find a medical cause, and so of course they turned to the supernatural. And since then, historians and scientists and even just interested people on the internet have been trying to figure out, is there something behind all of this? Is there something that caused this behavior among these 9 girls? And the answer is maybe, but it's probably not just one thing. And chances are not everyone's going to agree. And what we think is the cause seems to change every time there are new discoveries in medical science or even new things that are found. One of the kind of big underlying things that's been blamed has actually been poisoning by a parasitic fungus on rye. There's this thing called ergot that grows on rye plants, which is one of the main staples for the Salem community, or the Salem village. And when ingested, can cause hallucinogenic fits, not terribly unlike LSD, actually. And one of the leading theories is that these girls did ingest some of that and got ergotism or ergot poisoning. But that theory sort of crumbles because not everybody in the village was affected, and the village seemed to be pretty healthy, though conditions were almost perfect for this parasitic fungus to grow. So if it's not that, what else could have caused these girls to react in the way that they did? And that's something that's still kind of highly contested. There are some thoughts that it might have been Jimson weed or another biologic plant that they consumed that caused these symptoms. Or maybe it was the result of PTSD. There were a lot of not so great things going on in Salem Village and around the world of these girls at the time, including some of them were refugees from a war. There was a lot of conflict in the village, and things like that can really kind of make you see things. There's also a thought that it might have been encephalitis lethargica, which is, okay, I think it's really cool, but it was this terrifying sleeping sickness that we mostly saw in the wake of the 1918 flu. And so this would have been kind of an earlier sighting of it, I guess. But some of the symptoms match up. An even more recent study has suggested it might have been a different type of encephalitis, something called anti-NMDAR encephalitis, which is kind of an immune disorder, which again can cause similar symptoms. One of the more interesting things, though, that I found while doing research is that there were a group of girls in upstate New York in 2012 that started exhibiting similar symptoms, and they all tested positive for Lyme disease. So Lyme disease has even been pointed at as a culprit in the Salem Witch Trials. So there's a lot of kind of unknown things happening. But I think it's so cool that people have been able to take these historical accounts and match them up with modern science to try to find an idea, to find a hypothesis. It's really cool what people are doing. And if you'd like to explore any more about the research into these potential causes, or actually the witch trials themselves, you can check out any of the links below. Otherwise, I'm Hannah Weiss from the Science Museum of Western Virginia. And you know, even though it's a really, really dark period in our history, I think it's still really important to study because, well, if we know what happened then, we can hopefully stop it from happening in the future.